Hey everybody, so our first government guide for the modern mod is going to be a guide for the order government. So let's get right into it. So first of all, what are the stats of modern? So it has 5 military police, half-priced harbors that give +1 happiness, half-priced barracks that give 50% science, and cheap offshore platforms. You get super fast workers, a 4-7-10 unit cap, elite spies, very high corruption, rampant corruption, so you don't scale as well as the other governments. There's no xenophobia or forced resettlement. Those are the bad things associated with fascism in the base game, like where you lose pop when you switch into it. You don't have that in order. Don't worry about that. And you get 2 small wonders. You get one that gives +2 techs at ideology, and you give one that gives a bunch of military bonuses at hegemony. So, what makes Order special? I mean, it's the only government that with any military police whatsoever, and boy, does it have a lot of military police. It gets 5 military police. You can spend almost the entire game in wartime mode. Like, you need to exit to grab your factory at least, presumably. But aside from that, yeah, you don't really have many reasons to leave wartime. All your cheap buildings, of course, the harbor, the barracks, and even the offshore platform in modern are buildable in wartime mode. So you have few reasons to switch out. The government isn't, it's one of the few governments that isn't really limited by unit support. There are going to be situations where you are limited, and there are situations where other governments wouldn't be. But just generally, you don't need to worry, but you can just spam a million units and you're not going to be paying a ton of money for it. And the government thrives when the game gets scrappy. So if you like to play like a scrappy way with lots of fighting, then you're going to like this government. So what resources should you look for when you decide to go order? Coal is the biggest resource. Coal gives you marines, it gives you cruisers, and it gives you convoys. Convoys are kind of like a land transport. You can load foot units on, and it goes very fast, and you can use it to attack enemies over land. Coal is also especially useful with uranium, because uranium plus coal unlocks the subcruise missile. Rubber is good for order because it gives you the skirmisher early on, and the skirmisher is really, they're just like a beefy early game unit that you can use to beat people around, and they benefit a lot from the wartime production bonus. So in the modern mod, there are 2 early game draftable units. You can always draft the partisan or the Tau. But there are 2 draftable units that require 1 resource that have 2 moves. So there's the infantry available with zinc. Their stats are 4-8-2. And there's the skirmisher, which is an 8-6-2 available with rubber. So order is good with skirmishers. But if you have neither rubber or zinc, I mean, you're going to be in a weak spot because not having 2 move units is really a pain in the ass. But of all the governments, order is relatively the strongest in that situation where you don't have rubber or zinc. Just because you can spam a million units, and as long as you and draft a million units, and as long as you keep those units in your cap or in your cities, you don't actually get unhappiness from drafting because the military police makes it balance out. So yeah, and you also don't have military police, unit support issues, so you're able to spam those units, and while you don't have the mobility without zinc or rubber, you can make up for it with just sheer quantity of units. Aside from these resources, weigh what options you have for early game rushes and what options you have for mid-game timing pushes. So Order excels at both of those things. It's not the kind of government where you can just play indefinitely into the late game, just keep scaling and hope to crush people late game and figure it out then. No, you need to have a particular plan to make the most get the most value out of the government when you're playing as Order. So what land should you look for when deciding to go Order? It's relatively strong in starts where you have no river or weak coastal starts. That's because of the cheap harbor and the cheap offshore platform that you get. More forest is better because you get really fast workers, and so you get 1-turn chops. Ideally, you want an enemy close by, although medium distance works too, just so you have some target for your aggression. Because remember, you benefit a lot from being in wartime mode, so if you can force the enemy into wartime mode, then they don't really benefit as much from their governments. Like tradition, equality, and especially freedom have a lot of buildings that they want to build that they can't build in wartime mode. So if you can punish them for not going wartime early, or if you can force them into wartime, you're getting a lot of benefit out of your government. Your resources can be kind of far away when you're playing as Order. Remember that you have very fast workers, so you can do 1-turn roads over forest, hills, or marsh. and your harbors are half price. So even if your resources are kind of far away, or if you don't see any at the start of the game, because remember, at the start of turn 3, you have to make the decision what government you're going to go. So if you don't see any resources, then order is a good choice because it's easy to hook those resources that you eventually do find. Note that order is also very good at getting early military priority. So because you can just spam a bunch of units out early with your wartime mode and by drafting, you can use that to take control of the land between you and the enemy. So if there's let's say a very key resource that's slightly closer to the enemy than it is to you, if you go any other government, then that player is probably going to get that resource. But if you go order, you can just beeline with 2 workers, road there as soon as possible, and you should be able to take the resource for yourself and be able to use the resource against them. So yeah, build order. In your capital, when you start, remember that your capital, your palace counts as an aqueduct and your palace counts as a granary. So you don't need those buildings in your capital. I like to do the cheap barracks, or you can do a library, or you can do an explorer in your capital. If you're doing library, you should probably chop the library because libraries are 20 shields, so they're a little expensive. I guess you could also do harbor or offshore platform in some cases if you have a coastal start. Once you get that out, you probably have 1 per turn growth set up in your capital because you've been irrigating and you've been growing a little, so you can get 1 to 2 workers out. And while you're doing this, you want to slave or chop a granary in your second city. As soon as that granary is done, you switch into wartime mode immediately. From there, you pump out settlers and workers in your secondary cities. You pump out military units in your capital. You can send them at your enemy if you're close by, rush them by land, road towards them. Or you could send them out on a boat if you don't know where your enemies are yet. Just go explore and try to find someone and punish them that way. So yeah, keep drafting until you're at about 40 to 50% on the luxury slider. And remember that drafting doesn't actually make your city unhappy if you leave the unit in your city. You can draft up to 5 times. As long as you're leaving that unit in the city and the unit doesn't die, it doesn't actually create any unhappiness. So you can draft a ton. For this reason, order is a very strong defensive government. It's very strong at turtling. And you can stay in wartime mode pretty much until you're ready to get your factory. You can slave the factory, even if it costs 2 to 3 citizens. And the reason for that, obviously losing the citizens is not great, but if you do that, then you can go back into wartime faster. And of course, your other cities benefit a lot from being in wartime. So how do you use O Experiment? O Experiment is the first small wonder that you get access to. I'll show you the tech tree. So yeah, here's the tech tree for modern. The first small wonder is available here at Ideology. It's called O Experiments. You can read the description here. And the second one is available all the way here at Hegemony. So it's your first small wonder available at Ideology. It gives you 2 techs. Note that the second tech, due to a weird bug in multiplayer, the second tech is assigned randomly. The first one is whatever you have pre-queued, just like in single player. The second one is random. It's like that in modern and in any other mod. That's just how the +2 techs thing works. So normally you get something kind of random, but it's normally useful though. But the first tech you get, you can be very decisive and you can use it to get a tech that will give you a big power spike. The wonder also gives you plus 50% science and tax revenue, and it also gives you a power cruise every 24 turns. And note that Order just got a relatively big nerf, especially when it grows. It got increased corruption, so it doesn't scale as well when you grow big. So if we end up buffing Order, it will probably end up increasing the spawn rate for the power cruises that this wonder presents. So keep that in mind. So yeah, you can use this wonder for mid-game timing pushes. So you pick a mid-game unit that you have the resources for and that benefits from the wartime bonus. For example, tanks, fighter bombers, stealth fighters, special forces, modern paratroopers. These are all strong, spammable units. Yeah, and then you go for an early factory, and you can use your small wonder to get the tech required for this unit. You build this unit every turn, every 2 turns until you have a decent stack, and then you just use them to beat up your enemy, of course. You can also use your small wonder to unlock the hegemony tech for you, and that unlocks your second small wonder, which we'll talk about here. So the second small wonder is O Subjugation. It gives +1 ship move, 1 modern paratrooper plus every 5 turns, and it allows healing in enemy land. So the modern trooper pluses are insane. They get +2 health, and they're like 18s with like a 20 radius or 25 tile drop radius. They're crazy. So you want to rush for this wonder if you don't have a logical enemy to attack, like if you don't spawn near anyone and you want Order for whatever reason, or if you don't have the resources to attack them with. Usually cases where you only went order because of bad land might be why you'd rush for this wonder as soon as possible. Or maybe if you committed hard to rush someone in the early game and you don't have a factory. So Modern Trooper Plus's insanely large airdrop range. So even if you don't have priority over someone and you don't have any cities near them, you might be able to reach them just from this one, from these units. So coordinate with your allies, and you can attack and harass your enemies. By harass, I mean you pillage, you hang out on mountains, you heal up using battlefield medicine, try to take some workers, just be a huge pain in the ass, cut resources, of course. Very useful for your team. Alternatively, you can surprise the enemy and take a city, and then you bring in units via a helicopter. Or if you save up, you can maybe bring a few of these guys at the same time and kind of overwhelm the enemy in a particular location. So yeah, that's how order works. I'll give you a short demo just to show you how order normally works in practice in an actual game. So we see this land, we're coastal, we have a lot of a marsh and jungle, which takes a while to clear, but it's faster to clear if you're in order because of the increased worker speed. We see coal, which is a very key resource if you want to go order. And yeah, we don't have a lot of scaling options. We're not going to grow very big off the start just because of the impenetrable wall of jungle. So we decide to go order. Let's see, here's a good place for the capital, and we can just walk through here, I guess. Great. So, like I said, we'll do... what do we want in our capital? We'll go for the barracks here. That seems like a good idea. Remember, you go for the special order barracks and not the regular barracks. Ooh, I think if we go here, we get the whales eventually. Nice, we get this hut. Oh, we popped. That's sweet. Okay, yeah, this is standard text. Normally we do this, but let's grab transportation just so we can go for convoys. We turn off our tech for now. We'll turn it back on in a bit, and then we'll do explosives. That's just a good tech to have. And nice, we have an enemy to rush. So, 2 enemies to rush potentially. Let's see if we can find these bad boys. Ooh, oh god. 3 whales. Should we go? No, we need to rush someone. We're not going to go for the triple whale. That's kind of insane, but we'd lose the wheat if we did that. Great, so we have the draft, so we can draft. We have 1 per turn growth right now once we hit size 3. Of course, we're going to do the order barracks. And we're going to start moving towards Mumbai with our workers. Yeah, so here's our granary. Note that you do actually tech a bit faster in multiplayer for whatever reason. So we're going to turn up our tech speed. You might be able to keep it kind of low in a multiplayer game. Yeah, we'll just leave this guy fortified and scout around for the enemy. So we're doing barracks. We could also do harbor for the happiness. Yeah, we probably need the barracks. It's just because there's an awkward timing window here. Yeah, we'll just kind of chill on it. I was trying to... So yeah, as soon as this is done, or we're ready to slave, we want to go into wartime mode. So yeah, now we have 1 per turn, 1 per turn growth in our capital. So we switch to worker. And we're going to do 2 workers here, because we got a lot of stuff to chop down. We're actually... Mumbai. Yeah, this guy can make his way towards... Oops. Yeah, you can actually use your king for military police, so I'd recommend keeping them close to home when you're playing as order. Great. Oh, what the fuck? Oh god, we don't have the extra shield from the we don't have the extra shield from the forest, so we actually don't have enough for 1 per turn workers at 3 pop. That's very rare. But once we get some of these tiles mined, we should have that. Oops. Okay, well, we'll go wartime now. I probably should have gone out a turn ago, but yeah, we're good to go. Great. So as long as we're building a military unit, we actually get the production bonus. So let's grab another worker in Bangalore. Yeah, and so we want the coal as soon as possible so we can get convoys. Let's pretend China, I don't think anyone would be suicidal enough to plant like that if they were our enemy in a real game. So we'll pretend that China is on our team and that Samaria is the enemy team. Okay, it helps to get militia just as military police. Oh, crap. So we do this and this. Do we actually have enough for the settler next turn? No, we're not in wartime mode. We're not getting the wartime bonus because we're building settler now, so. Great, but we'll build some military units, and I think we have enough for partisan every 2 turns now. Yeah, it should work out. Oh, fuck me. Oh my god. Okay, so remember we just start drafting. There's no happiness penalty as long as you keep them in the city, which we might not, but we'll see. So yeah, 2-turn road over jungle. It's absolutely great. We're using partisan just so we get the wartime bonus. That's why we're getting 2 shields in the city center, even though one is corrupted right now. Let's just maintain our 1-per-turn growth. Yeah, that's not ideal, but great. And again, keep drafting. So yeah, the idea here is we're actually going to fill this in with the settler from Bangalore, but it kind of got delayed. We got transportation next turn, though, so I'll show you how the convoy works. Are you... Oh my god. I'm not doing a second take of this fucking... Yeah, if this was, of course, if this was a real game, we'd have to start worrying about them attacking Mumbai. I'll take one of these over here for military police, honestly. Okay, this is going here. Honestly, yeah. We'll just do the convoy here. Yeah, so this is what a convoy looks like if you have the custom graphics installed. Great. The road's done. So convoy here. And again, you just keep drafting. You should draft every turn until you have 7 pop. So the convoy fits 2 units, and then next turn we can go kill the Sumerians. Great, fantastic. So yeah, one thing about order is since you do have military police, be careful when you're taking units out of the city, not to take a penalty. Like not to cause yourself to disorder, since clearly that's a problem for me. So we just hang out here. We're gonna double move him. In a real game, a double move is like a stealthy way of catching someone off guard. Oh, crap. This should have been a settler, I guess. I guess. You know what? Fuck it, we're doing another convoy. Might be a little overkill, but okay. So yeah, now we take our convoy. You'll notice that. Oh, ooh, let's get rid of this. A radar tower. Bam, and what? Okay, next turn, I guess. And yeah, so we're at war with him. Again, when you take units out of the city, you're careful not to accidentally disorder yourself, which we almost did. So we want to get an out of war, and we will get an out of war when he dies. The other way, in a multiplayer game, the other way to do that would be to coordinate an out of war with your team. So this is going to be a good out of war. We're going to do a granary in Hyderabad, maybe a granary in Mumbai too. Yeah, okay. Wow, that was close. So yeah, now we get we have the granary here, so we could do like an aqueduct. So that'll make it a drafting city. Here we do factory. Done. We have happiness problems. Totally freaking worth it. Because it gets us into wartime mode sooner. And we'll have the silks to help solve that problem. And here we do a granary. And we slave. Can we make this any faster? Oh. Yeah, okay. So yeah. And now we're instantly back into wartime. Here we go. Because as long as we're in wartime, we're getting the production bonus, and there's just not a lot of stuff we need out of wartime mode as order. So what resources do we have? We have coal, we have iron. We can road to these resources very easily. Coal, iron, rubber. Zinc's kind of far. Sulfur's kind of far. So what can we do? Iron, rubber, coal. Let me check this the tech tree. Power cruises with iron, aluminum. Oh, do we have aluminum? Huh. Don't think there's any obvious option. That requires aluminum. Battalion requires uranium. What's the requirement of the combat engineer? Sulfur, zinc, coal. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do combat engineers. So we have the factory in Delhi. We're going to grow Delhi very big so we can hopefully get 1 per turn combat engineers. So combat engineers are fucking tanks. 30, 10, 1. So yeah, and then we do a big timing push with combat engineers, and we'll have that kind of power spike. What we can do, like I said about mid-game timing pushes, what we'd do is we'd grab ideology, and then we'd use the ideology to get global conflict as a free tech, because global conflict is a little expensive, and we don't have the best commercial output because we're order. So yeah, we use that to get combat engineers, we stack combat engineers, then we just drop a bunch of combat engineers on somebody's capital, and we kill them. So yeah, that's how you play order.